We've all been there, right? That conversation you're dreading. The one where the stakes feel sky high and, the potential for it to all go wrong feels even higher. Well, today we're going to break down a really powerful framework that's designed to turn those challenging talks from battles into, well, actual breakthroughs. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at why these talks go sideways. Then we'll dive into the 3 pillars of what's called the Trinity Method. We'll see how it works in the real world, and then we'll zoom out and see how this is way more than just a communication trick. It's a whole philosophy for how to speak your truth without burning bridges. All right, let's jump right in by tackling a problem that is just so incredibly human. That feeling when a discussion suddenly shifts and it stops feeling like a conversation and starts feeling like a fight. So why does that happen? It's a fantastic question. The thinking behind this method puts it perfectly. It's because we're often speaking from our wounds and we're listening through our shields. We basically go into these conversations armed for a fight, totally focused on proving that we're right. And this, right here, this is the trap. It captures it perfectly. Our goal becomes to win the argument, to land that killer point. And the result? Yeah, maybe you win the battle of words, but you lose the person. You just chipped away at trust, at connection. It's a huge cost. But what if there's another way? A way to be completely honest, to say what needs to be said without causing all that collateral damage? Well, that is the promise of the Trinity Method. It's about changing the entire game. So let's get into the first and honestly the most critical pillar, the person. This is the bedrock of the whole thing. It is all about establishing safety and acknowledging the other person's fundamental worth before you say another word. This powerful idea actually comes from the world of psychology from Carl Rogers. He called it unconditional positive regard. It sounds academic, but it's simple. It just means you separate the who from the do. You accept their core humanity, even if you don't approve of their actions. And check this out. There's some serious brain science that explains why this is so important. The second someone feels attacked, their brain's little alarm system, the amygdala, it just goes haywire. It triggers fight or flight, and their rational, logical brain literally switches off. They cannot hear you. They're just trying to survive. That's why your first job is to bypass that fear response right from the start. You use phrases like these to send a clear signal, hey, you are safe. Your value as a person is not on trial here. That's what creates the space for a real conversation to even begin. Okay, so once that person feels secure, then we can shift our focus to the second pillar. This is where we get specific about the problem. But, and this is so important, we do it in a very particular way. We focus on the agreed upon expectations of their role. This pillar is what allows for what some people call radical candor. You see, you've already shown that you care personally. That was pillar 1. So now you've earned the right to challenge directly. You're not critiquing the individual, you're just looking at whether the requirements of the role were met. It's a huge difference. When you frame the feedback around the role, it just sucks the personal sting out of it. It becomes objective. You're not saying you're a mess. You're saying the standards for this role require X. It completely reframes the dynamic. Suddenly you're not an accuser, you're a partner, trying to solve a problem together. And now for the third pillar. And this one's a little tricky because our brains are literally hardwired to miss it. It's all about looking at the bigger picture, the context, the environment that this person is operating in. There's a powerful concept in psychology that explains this, the fundamental attribution error. It's a mouthful, but the idea is dead simple. We all have this double standard. When other people mess up, we tend to blame their character. But when we mess up, we blame our circumstances. It's like we give ourselves a get-out-of-jail-free card that we don't offer to anyone else. Just think about it. A coworker shows up late. What's our instant reaction? They're so disorganized, or they just don't care. We immediately make it a judgment on who they are as a person. But when it's us, it's a totally different story. You would not believe the traffic, or my alarm clock failed. It's always the situation's fault. So, the Trinity Method asks us to actively fight this bias, to give others the same grace we so easily give ourselves by asking, what's going on in their world? Okay, so we've got our 3 pillars, the person, the role, and the context. Let's put it all together now and see it in action because it's using all 3 in harmony that makes this whole thing actually work. This really shows you what happens when you leave one piece out. It's like a 3-legged stool. Try to stand on 2 legs and the whole thing just topples over.
If you only validate the person, you're nice, but nothing gets solved. Only critique the role, you sound like a cold, heartless robot. And only talk about context, you just sound like you're making excuses. You need all three to see the full picture.
So here's how this conversation usually goes, right? This is the typical approach. You can just feel the accusation in it. It's a direct attack on the person and their character. And the immediate result? Defensiveness. The walls go up and the conversation is over before it even starts.
But watch what happens when we use the method. The entire dynamic flips. First, you validate the person. Then, you clarify the objective need of the role. And then, and this is the magic part, you open the door to talk about their reality, the context. It's not a confrontation anymore. It's an invitation.
And this brings us to what might be the most important point of all. This is not just some management technique you pull out at the office. This is a framework that can fundamentally improve all of your human connections in every single corner of your life. Just think about it. What would change if you use this with your partner, with your kids? Or, and this one is huge, what if you applied it to your own inner voice? You know, that inner critic we all have? When you fall short, instead of attacking yourself, what if you validated your worth, looked at the role you were trying to fill, and acknowledged the context of your life? It's a game changer. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What if our hardest conversations weren't something to run away from? What if they were actually the path? The path to more honesty, to deeper connection, and ultimately to a much greater sense of freedom, both with others and with ourselves.